What happens when the most disrespected person in the room is actually the most dangerous one to cross? For 6 months, the trauma team at a major city hospital mocked the older, slow nurse who never rushed. They called her a liability. Then the medevac pilot walked in. In the high-stakes, adrenaline-soaked ecosystem of the Level 1 Trauma Center at St. Jude's Medical Center, speed was the ultimate currency. If you couldn't move fast, think fast, and speak fast, you were nothing but a speed bump to the rest of the staff. St. Jude's was a meat grinder of a hospital situated right off the interstate, catching the worst of the city's wreckage, high-speed collisions, industrial accidents, and late-night violence. In this world of organized chaos, Nurse Sarah Jenkins stuck out like a sore thumb. Sarah was 52 years old, her graying blonde hair always pulled back into an uncompromising tight bun. While the fresh-faced nursing graduates practically sprinted down the linoleum corridors in their neon-trimmed scrubs, Sarah walked. She never jogged. She never rushed. She moved with a steady, infuriatingly deliberate cadence, her orthotic shoes squeaking softly against the polished floors. To the young hotshots running the emergency department, she was a relic. They didn't know much about her background, only that she had transferred in from somewhere out of state 6 months ago. Human Resources had slotted her into the evening shift, the most brutal rotation in the hospital. The undisputed king of the evening shift was Dr. Harrison Cole. At 33, Cole was a brilliant, arrogant trauma surgeon, fresh off a high-profile fellowship. He was handsome, ruthlessly efficient, and treated his staff less like colleagues and more like interchangeable tools in an operating theater. Cole thrived on the adrenaline of the golden hour, the critical 60 minutes after a traumatic injury, where rapid intervention meant the difference between life and death. To Dr. Cole, Sarah was an absolute liability. "Jenkins," Cole barked one Tuesday evening, his voice cutting through the din of Trauma Bay 1. A 20-year-old motorcycle accident victim lay on the table, alarms blaring as his blood pressure plummeted. "I need 100 milligrams of rocuronium, and I needed it 30 seconds ago. Are you moving in slow motion?" Sarah didn't flinch. She stood at the medication cart, holding the vial up to the harsh fluorescent light, her eyes tracking the label. "Drawing it up now, doctor," she said, her voice calm, devoid of any panic or inflection. "Give me the damn syringe," Cole snapped, snatching it from her gloved hand the second she turned around. He administered the paralytic, his jaw tight with fury. "If you can't keep up with the pace of a level 1 trauma, Jenkins, go work in a podiatry clinic. You are a danger to my patients." Sarah simply stepped back, hands clasped loosely in front of her, watching the monitor as the patient's vocal cords relaxed, allowing Cole to slide the endotracheal tube in. She didn't argue. She didn't defend herself. The rest of the nursing staff took their cues from Cole. Chloe Davis, a 24-year-old charge nurse who worshipped the ground, Dr. Cole walked on, made it her personal mission to ensure Sarah knew she didn't belong. In the break room, Chloe would hold court. "I swear to God, watching Molasses Jenkins try to spike an IV bag is like watching paint dry," Chloe scoffed, sipping her iced coffee, while the other young nurses giggled. "Did you see her during the GSW last night? Cole was screaming for O-negative blood, and she's standing there double-checking the barcode on the bag. The guy is bleeding out, and she's playing librarian." What Chloe and Dr. Cole didn't understand, what they lacked the experience to see, was the terrifying precision behind Sarah's slowness. Yes, she checked the barcode on the blood bag while the patient bled. But in doing so, she caught a fatal error made by the blood bank. The bag they had sent down was A positive, not the universal O negative requested. If she had rushed and hung that bag blindly, the gunshot victim would have died from an acute hemolytic transfusion reaction within minutes. She had quietly swapped the bag, saving the patient's life, and saving Dr. Cole from $1 million malpractice lawsuit. She never mentioned it. She never sought credit. But the mockery continued. They assigned her the grunt work. They rolled their eyes when she spoke up in shift huddles. They actively tried to petition the nursing director to have her transferred to a long-term care facility, claiming she didn't have the edge required for emergency medicine. Through it all, Sarah Jenkins remained an iceberg. She clocked in, did her job with robotic precision, and clocked out. She never joined in the break room gossip. She never retaliated. She simply watched them, her pale blue eyes tracking the frantic, wasteful movements of the young staff, like a seasoned predator watching frantic prey. She knew something they didn't. She knew that running fast meant nothing if you were running in the wrong direction. And she knew that true chaos hadn't even touched this hospital yet. It happened on a Friday in mid-November. The weather forecasters had warned of a severe winter squall moving off the coast, but no one expected the sudden violent drop in temperature that turned the torrential rain into a sheet of invisible black ice across Interstate 90. At 6:15 p.m., the ER doors were relatively quiet. Dr. Cole was at the main desk, flirting with Chloe over a chart, while Sarah was quietly restocking the Belmont Rapid infusers in the trauma bays. Then the red trauma phone rang. Its shrill, piercing tone instantly silenced the room. Chloe picked it up. As she listened to the dispatcher, all the color drained from her face. Her hand began to tremble. She dropped the receiver back onto the cradle, missing it on the first try. "What is it?" Cole demanded, his flirtatious demeanor vanishing. "Mass casualty incident," Chloe stammered, her voice breathless with sudden terror. "A commercial tour bus carrying 40 passengers lost control on the I-90 overpass. It completely crossed the median and hit a convoy of logging trucks head-on. There's a multi-vehicle pileup behind it. Dispatch says at least 20 critical, dozens more walking wounded. They're routing everyone to us." The ER froze for a microsecond. Then panic erupted. "Clear the waiting room, empty every bed you can," Cole shouted, his voice cracking slightly. "Call the blood bank. Tell them we need massive transfusion protocols on standby. Get the surgical teams down here now." For the next 20 minutes, it was the frantic preparation before a war. And then the war arrived. The double doors blew open, and the paramedics flooded in. It was a relentless tide of blood-twisted metal and screaming. The smell of copper and diesel fuel instantly overpowered the sterile scent of the hospital. "Trauma Bay 1, a paramedic yelled, wheeling in a man with a crushed chest. "Tension pneumo BP is dropping, heart rate 140. Trauma 2, another shouted right behind him. "Amputation makeshift tourniquet applied. He's going into hypovolemic shock." Dr. Cole was sprinting between bays, shouting orders. "Chest tube now. Somebody get a central line kit. Where is the damn anesthesia tech?" The system began to fracture under the weight of the casualties. The young, fast nurses who thrived on single isolated traumas were suddenly drowning. They were moving incredibly fast, but they were making mistakes. Chloe dropped a tray of intubation equipment, the plastic shattering across the floor. She knelt down, sobbing in pure overwhelm, paralyzed by the sheer volume of screaming patients. Cole was sweating profusely, his hands slick with blood. He was trying to place a chest tube in Bay 1, but the patient was thrashing. "Hold him down! Somebody hold him down!" Cole screamed, losing his composure. Through the sheer bedlam, Sarah Jenkins walked. She didn't run. She didn't shout. But suddenly her slowness revealed itself for what it truly was: extreme, lethal efficiency. Every single movement she made had a purpose. She didn't waste a millimeter of motion. She stepped over the crying charge nurse, swiftly picking up the sterile tools Chloe had managed not to contaminate, and handed them to a resident. She moved into bay. One placed a firm, uniquely positioned grip on the thrashing patient's shoulders, a grip that immobilized him completely with minimal effort, and looked at Cole. "Tube him, doctor," she said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it possessed a strange, vibrating authority that instantly cut through the screaming. Cole, wide-eyed, shoved the chest tube in. Before he could even thank her, Sarah was already gone. She was at the central console, her fingers flying over the keyboard, coordinating the blood bank deliveries that the administrative staff had abandoned in panic. She was anticipating needs before the doctors even voiced them. When a resident reached blindly for a syringe of epinephrine, Sarah had already placed it in his hand, perfectly dosed. She was a ghost moving through the trenches, patching the holes in the sinking ship. But the real crisis was yet to come. The hospital radio crackled to life, the loud burst of static interrupting the chaos. It was King County Airlift Northwest, the medevac helicopter. "St. Jude's, this is Dust-Off 7 Alpha. We are inbound with a pediatric priority 1. 7-year-old female massive blunt force trauma to the chest, pericardial effusion. She has minutes over." Dr. Cole sprinted to the radio console, his chest heaving. "Dust-Off 7 Alpha. This is Dr. Cole. Have your surgical team prep her in the air. We are ready for you on the roof pad." The radio crackled back, the sound of heavy rotor blades and violent wind bleeding through the speaker. "Negative St. Jude's. Winds are currently gusting at 45 knots up here. Visibility is near zero with the sleet. Your roof pad is a death trap right now. I cannot safely touch down. I'm declaring an abort. We are diverting to Mercy General, over." Cole turned pale. Mercy General was 20 minutes away. "Dust off, you cannot divert," Cole screamed into the microphone, losing all professional composure. "This girl will die in the air. You have to land. That is an order. Land the damn chopper. I am the pilot in command. Doc." The voice snapped back, laced with stress and anger. "I don't take orders from civilians, and I'm not putting my crew into the side of your building. We are breaking off. Dust off out." "No, wait!" Cole shouted, slamming his fist on the console. He looked around wildly. The child was going to die because of the weather. The ER staff who had overheard the exchange stopped, a heavy dark silence falling over them. They were helpless. Then a hand gently but firmly pushed Dr. Cole aside. It was Sarah. She didn't look at Cole. She picked up the microphone. Her posture shifted. The slumped, quiet older woman vanished. She stood straight, her shoulders squared, her eyes locked on the radio display with a terrifying ice-cold intensity. When she spoke into the microphone, her voice was totally different. It was a voice that had commanded men in the darkest corners of the earth. "Dust off 7 Alpha. This is Jenkins." She didn't yell. She spoke with a slow, measured cadence that commanded absolute obedience. "You are not diverting. You are going to bring that bird down." "St. Jude's, I already told your doctor." "I don't care what you told the doctor," Sarah interrupted, her voice dropping an octave, radiating absolute authority. "You have a severe crosswind from the northeast. Your ground effect on that roof is going to be compromised by the air conditioning units on the east parapet. I know. I've flown it. Dr. Cole stared at her, his jaw literally dropping. Chloe, standing nearby with blood on her scrubs, stopped breathing. Sarah continued, completely ignoring the stunned doctors around her. You are going to approach from the southwest, keeping the helipad's elevator housing between you and the primary wind shear. Drop your collective bank heavy to the left and commit to a hard deck landing. Do not hover. You hover, you die. Put her down hard, dust off. There was a long, agonizing pause on the radio. The static hissed. St. Jude's? Who the hell am I speaking to? The pilot asked, his voice shaking slightly. You're speaking to someone who expects that child on my table in exactly 3 minutes, Sarah said coldly. Now fly the damn aircraft, Captain. The radio remained silent, save for the rhythmic, violent thumping of the helicopter's rotor blades transmitted through the open mic. Inside the trauma center, time seemed to suspend itself. The monitors continued to beep. The wounded continued to groan, but every able-bodied staff member near the nurses' station was paralyzed, staring at the gray-haired woman holding the microphone. Jenkins! Dr. Cole breathed, his voice trembling. What did you just do? If that chopper goes down on our roof, it's going to breach the building. You just ordered a man to his death. Sarah ignored him completely. She unclipped her hospital ID badge from her scrubs and tossed it onto the keyboard, her pale blue eyes locking onto the young charge nurse. Chloe, take over the blood bank logistics. Do not deviate from the massive transfusion protocol. We are going to need 4 units of O-negative and a pediatric crash cart waiting at the trauma elevator. Move. Chloe, terrified and awestruck, practically scrambled over the desk to obey. Sarah turned toward the secure doors leading to the helipad elevators. Cole, you're with me. Bring the pericardiocentesis tray. We have less than 2 minutes. For the first time in his celebrated arrogant career, Dr. Harrison Cole did not argue. He grabbed the tray, his hands slick with cold sweat, and sprinted after the older nurse. The ride up the freight elevator was excruciating. The mechanical hum of the lift felt agonizingly slow. Cole stared at Sarah, who stood perfectly still, her hands resting calmly by her sides. She didn't look like a slow, tired nurse anymore. She looked like a statue forged from cold iron. Who are you? Cole finally choked out the question, tearing from his throat. How do you know about wind shear and ground effect? You're a floor nurse. Sarah didn't even turn her head. Put your gloves on, doctor. The ambient temperature on the roof is 14 degrees. Your manual dexterity is going to drop by 40% the second those doors open. Focus on the child. The elevator chimed. The heavy steel doors slid apart, and the howling fury of the winter squall hit them like a physical blow. The roof was a nightmare of freezing rain and whipping winds. Floodlights cut through the sleet, illuminating the giant white H painted on the frozen tarmac. Above them, roaring out of the black sky, came Dust-Off 7 Alpha. It was a twin-engine UH-60 Black Hawk, painted in emergency medical colors, but it was being battered relentlessly. The crosswind was violently shoving the 5-ton aircraft toward the elevator housing.